Hi guys, very warm welcome to Biroxy Tomorrow YouTube channel. In this new series of video, I'm going to talking about something really practical. We are going to see how we can take manual audit working papers and turn them into efficient automated workflows using all tricks. And we may see how we can generate the final working papers automatically. So in this first video, in this first episode, I want to start by you asking something. How do you normally select samples? Are you using Caseware for that? Or maybe using manually or using some other tools? Especially when you are dealing with, a massive reports or a huge general ledgers. It's very difficult to select samples, right? Sometimes those massive reports won't even open properly in a normal Excel files. That's the big headache. For and the other thing is for each sampling section, you had to do it one by one. It's just so difficult and time consuming. All this time consuming means you can't concentrate on other areas, more important areas of the audit. Whereas the great solution for this, I have created an automated workflow for the sample selection using Alteryx. So let me give a simple idea about this workflow. I will show you how it works, what input files we need to connect, and then we will look at the final results together, final working papers together. And the other thing is I want to mention you that I'm not going to go deep into how to set up each and every tools in the workflow. Okay. The main idea today is just to give you a general overview to show you what's possible and how you can create a workflow like this to get your samples automatically and efficiently. But if you need a detailed step-by-step video on how to create this entire workflow from the beginning, please leave a message. I will do it in the next episode. Okay, sounds good. Then let's jump into this plane. Okay, then. So here we are on my screen. So this is the workflow I built. So I will explain this one little while ago. First, I will show you the input files we need for this workflow. It's actually very simple. There are only two things we need to connect. Once we connect them and run the workflow, the output is automatically created for us right here. You don't need to do anything else. So our first input file is the general ledger. This has all the data that we need to select our samples from. Simple, right? Date, the account name, account code, descriptions, amount, etc. Then this is our second input file. You can think this as our settings or parameter file. This is the important one. This is where we define all the rules for our sampling. So you can simply see this one for the we want to select sample for these other expenses, cost of sale for this test of details by samples, test for the within the same section for the test of control, we need just one sample from the other income. For test of data, 15 samples. For the revenue, test of control, 26 samples. So here in this table, we carry the workflow few things for each section. For first, these are the classification section for this each sections. We list down all the ledger accounts. Relevant ledger accounts we need to select samples from. Right? So for this section, these are the ledger accounts. So from these ledger accounts, we need to select, Alteryx need to select 26 samples. So here we define the classification and the relevant account for each classification section. We define the ledger account codes and then the sample size, how many items we need to select. And finally, the sampling method. This is the sampling method. So speaking of sampling method, according to auditing standards, we have few ways to select samples. Uh, Random samples and systematic samples, and the other thing is monitoring unit sampling. So in here, in this video, I'm talking about interval and the random sample. The next video, I will explain you how we select samples using multi-unit method. So this the great thing inside the workflow. We have already defined our logic for this each sampling method. So whatever the methods we choose in our input file here, so we can now here we have selecting interval for this section, and for this section, we have selected the sampling method as random. So whatever the method we chose in our input file, Alteryx will automatically knows what to do and will generate our final working papers accordingly. So this is the input file, and let's move on to our workflow. So this is the workflow. So before explaining this logic and how it works from here, I will quickly run this one. So we have already connected the input file. This one is there. So this is the uh, package of this Alteryx package. So we have connected the form GA and the input file. And let's see here, once we run the workflow, the sampling work paper should be come to here. So before that, I will again show you the input file. So how many sample working papers supposed to be created? So basically, once our working paper for this one working paper for this one for this, one for this. Basically, there should be 4 working papers. Let's run the workflow. So let's see the time. Oh, sorry, I forgot to close this one. Input has to close first. Okay, now it's done. Within 14 seconds, we were able to we were able to run the workflow. Let's go ahead and see the generated results. So these are the generated results. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 4 working papers, 14500 test TOC file. So let's see this one. So we already defined the working template in the workflow previously. So I didn't explain that one. So it's not a big thing, just a template. So workflow now for this revenue section, we wanted 26 samples within that certain ledger accounts. Now these are the details. Now already section, classification, the test of detail, record ID means this is the record ID taken from the ledger, sampling method, sample size, the random starting point. That because the since that this is a interval systematic sampling, the first record should be based on a random, right? First record will be selected based on a random number. From that onwards, sampling will be selected based on the interval. That's how we define the logic in the workflow. So random based on necessary flows, record ID, some formatting errors. So interval means this is the interval. From this interval onwards, start selecting samples. I will come back to I will explain this one again. So you to understand the logic whether this has been selected the samples properly. This record ID and this one we would made. Okay, let's see this thing. Okay. Now from here, these are the Alteryx page that has been created by Alteryx. These are from the original input file. From here onwards, the GL account, these are the details for the audit team. These are the amounts from we can see 26 samples has been selected from this different accounts. From this account, 1 sample, from this account 3 samples. Likewise, from almost other majority of samples has been selected from this account. Let's see what that, okay. The account name also we can see from here. I think that's export sales. That's export sales something in WMP. Okay, these are the details. And again, let's come to this one. These are the record ID you can see. This record ID 100A has been selected. Then this record ID, you can see the first one is starting point, this one. Then now Alteryx has identified the random starting point. Starting point 108 record. That should be the first samples. So that has been selected. Then other sample entries should be based on the interval. So now we can see this is the first one, and the second one should be based on the interval. This one, 268, and then third record should be from 428. So that's how it's has selected the samples. Okay, that's all about this one. Now this is the interval, and let's say one of random one. Then this is random. Okay. Now here there is no any much of logic. Simply identifying a random number and select say examples. Okay, this is really cool one, right? So automatically once we define the input file and connect the ledger, automatically based on the sample method, it will say the samples and print those samples on working papers. And let's go to the workflow again, just to show you. This is where we have connected the GA. So there are some basic input data preparation here happening here. So we can see this is the GL, this is the GL, and then we are connecting the sampling details as well. Sampling detail in the sense this one, based on the summary from for this one 26 sample, for this one 26 26 pile light pies. So based on this for our internal purposes, we define two sub workflows to build test of detail in this area, test of control in this area. Under each area, you can see the interval method happening in this side and the random happening in here. So from the based on this filter, it will filter interval and the random. If it is interval, it will go through this section. If it is a random, it will go through this section. So from this connection, it will pass the input parameter information. From this section, it will pass the entire GA, and from the entire GA, according to this section, classification section, from this join tool, it will filter only the relevant classification related GA transaction. Now you can see from here it pass 271 records from here for only for that classification section. Let's see that whether that's the classification, yeah, 4600 classifications section. So from this join anchor, it pass this 133 records. So here the logic. So first it based on this information. So this is the sample. Now from this simple formula, what we are going to do first is this identifying a random starting point. Based on this uh, random tool, random formula, we are identifying a random. Before that, we have to identify the interval. To identify the interval, what we are doing is we are taking all the transaction records here, 133. From 133, we are dividing them by sample size. Then we are identifying a interval. So from this interval, then we are identifying a starting point. That's how this works. Now then, these are from this filter, it will select another 5 samples. That because we have defined 5 samples here, from that one 5 samples will be passed into this filter. That's how it works. So from this section, test of detail section related to interval, it for the available information, we have only this 1600. So we have that information from, let's see that test of data random as well. I think for the random one, we have only, for that one also, we have only one section, for related one section, I think 15 samples. Yeah, 15 samples here. Now then test of control, let's see that one. I think in there all are random for the, sorry, interval. For the interval, it passing through this perimeter, two sections, relevant transaction for this each section available here. So from here, it summarized for this section records 4000, for this section 133. Then it identify a interval and the starting point. Based on those things, using this perimeter, it will select the 20. It will identify samples. For 27 means the total of this one 26. Let's see the classification properly. So this is the 1600, 1500. And here the bottom of this one, we can see one sample has been selected for this second section. That's how it works for here no any records. So then those all the information will be joined together using the union tool, all the informations. So then these are the basic output data preparation things. So then this information will be printed for each, based on this each section, classification section to relevant working papers. That's how it happens. Finally, as you have seen previously in working papers, each working papers, we have a summary as well for each sample working papers. This is a simple summary. So this is just for audit team to understand for this each section, the total population means the total value for this section from the ledger and the transaction counts, and then the selected sample population and the sample count. So this is 1.7 million means the total of this. That's how it counts to here. So this work from this summary simply take from the ledger for each section. It take the population and the count, summation of the amount column and the transaction count, and that's joined with this each sample sample for this one. For these are the sample population, sample counts. It will, that GS summary will be joined with this each sampling lines like this. Then all this information will be come together from here. As you can see here, for this section, population counts likewise. So then it will be printed into relevant working paper by looking at this classification number. So that's how it works. So I hope you got a good general idea of how this workflow works. It's a really great time saving tool, isn't it? Just imagine how much faster the sampling process can be. Okay. So now in the next episode, I will show you guys exactly how this workflow handles the monetary unit sampling method. It's bit of tricky method because, as you know, the sampling selection is based on the monetary value of each transaction in the ledger. Higher value items have a higher chance of being selected. So for that special sampling logic, we have actually used Python code inside the Alteryx. So we have wrote that logic inside the Python. So I will break it all down and show you how that works in our next video. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, or if there are any unclear area you'd like me to explain further, please leave a message below. I'll be sure to read them and cover those points in the next episode. See you in the next one.